You want your glasses?
Those are my glasses.
You want them?
Yeah, that's very nice.
Where's Andy? No, the other one. Yes.
Moshe.
Come.
Moshe left. Na, 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 na. It's so good that it's raining. It's so amazing. Such a gentle rain. And it comes, it goes. It's not overwhelming. Not yet. It's full of chesed. So last week I gave out some pages with questions as a kind of a way of getting into what inner space is about and getting behind the scenes. You have yours? And the truth is I was going to bring in some lords to color tonight, but I didn't do it. So I'll explain why in a minute. The numbers before the sentences, pages in inner space. So we spoke about these things. How many levels in the Yud Kei Vav Kei? Why is the name Elohim only mentioned throughout the creation narrative until chapter 2 of Bereshit, when Hashem's name is mentioned? What is Tzimtzum? In other words, there was a Tzimtzum of the Yud Kei Vav Kei for the first chapter of Genesis. Hashem held back his Yud Kei Vav Kei, his Olam Haba light, his right, and so that was the connection of that. Name the main levels of the Olamot. How many Olamot are there really? The main levels are 5, but how many are there? So, as we say in the Kitvei Ari, we see it says Olamot Ein Sof. Even in case that more ladies come, so this is the men's side. So again, how many worlds, main dimensions of reality did we speak about? 5. But really, even within the 5, it's huge. There are many subworlds. And then there's called Olamot Ein Sof, infinite worlds. We don't know what that means exactly. One way of understanding it is that whenever we'll come to a horizon that was in the distance, we get to the horizon, another horizon opens up. And we'll travel to that horizon, or where that horizon, the Ofek was. And when we get there, there's another horizon. There's Makifim after Makifim after Makifim. There's no end. Hashem can't, if Mitzideno, from our point of view, reveal everything all at once. So he has wonderful things in store for us. That's the idea of many worlds, many levels of reality. And corresponding to them are named the main levels of the soul, the 5 levels of the soul that we went through. That's on page 16 in inner space. Which are Pinini and which are Makif we went through. This is only just in order to get the motors running from last week to this week. Which levels of the soul, of the 5 levels of the soul, are internalized and which of them are what's called surrounding, makifim. If any of the questions here that you can't answer them like kind of easily, tell me. This is a review here. Father and Son. Shalom Aleichem. That's really a privilege. Good. Welcome, Amish. Welcome. It's good to see you. I think I would like this light on. Right there,
This light
yes.
is not working. That light is not working.
Oh, it's not working. Okay. I don't know if I want this light.
Yeah. Sorry.
Right. So what does Panimi and what's Makif in terms of the soul, the levels of the soul? Anybody remember? Wait a second, I can't.
What's the meaning, are you asking?
No, which ones of the 5 levels of the soul, which ones are the integrated, internalized ones officially, and which ones are called makifim, surrounding, encompassing? Got the question? You know the answer? Aha. So what's the answer?
Bifnim is nefesh, ruach, and neshama.
From the bottom up, nefesh is the lowest level of the soul that indwells within the blood and fills the entire body. And then the next higher level above it is called ruach, which is wind, which is spirit, breath, spirit. And then neshama. And of course, neshama really is partly internalized, but partly above. So it's a transition. It's the maximum level of our own individuality, but it borders on the collective level, which is the higher level from which our individuality comes down from. So we can keep getting higher levels of neshama internalized in us, but it really is our connection to the collective level, to the kindred souls with whom we are connected, to the level that is called chaya. So I identify the word chaya, life, with the verse that Abigail said to King David when she said, "V'haita nefesh Adoni tzrura b'tzror achaim." May the soul of my master be bound up in the bundle of life. To this day that we have on every kever, every Jewish tombstone, Tinsaba, initials T, Tehe, Nishmato, Tzrura, with what? B'tzror achaim. So that Tzror achaim, that bundle of life idea is very powerful. I call it kindergarten. That's where we all were before we went to university. When we go back and we have a reunion, we go back to the souls that we were connected with in kindergarten, when we were in our mommy's womb. That's the level of collective soul, when we had, before individuality, on the way down. And then comes neshama and the development of neshama and ruach and nefesh. And then the truth is, then we start working from the bottom up, and neshama only really comes in when we become mature and we begin to learn wisdom and we internalize and we fix our midot and we work on ourselves. So there is a level of neshama that comes in on the way down, but the truth is that we have to work on from the way up. We wouldn't be able to attain neshama if an impression of it wasn't already given to us at birth, but it's only an impression. So always the work is going to be mostly from the bottom up, but it's going to be with a hidden or only partially revealed siyata deshmaya, assistance from heaven. So it's going to have to be both. We have to do what we can do, and then heaven helps us. Always, for instance, it's all over the place. The Torah says to us, "Umaltem et olat debachem," you shall circumcise the foreskin of your hearts, of your heart. Each one of us has a heart. And then later on, it says, Umal Hashem. Hashem will circumcise the foreskin of your heart. Well, who's going to do it? What's the answer? We do our part. And then, and it could be that my part is 1%, but it's very precious. It's very important. Okay. So then we go to the meaning of the word olam. unless anybody who has any questions anywhere up until here. But the meaning of the word olam is a threefold meaning. So it's really important to know that and to keep that in mind, so that when you say a bracha melech haolam, or you say ahavat olam ahavtanu in the brachot before Shema, or if you say an adon olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra, what is adon olam? If you unpack the threefold meaning of olam, give me one meaning. Olam. World, universe, and dimension. Both, that's all one meaning, but it's world, universe, or dimension, or basically synonymous. That's one of the meanings of olam. Hidden is the third one. Hidden and infinite is the third one, is the third meaning. And the second meaning is
To do with Malchus?
it's definitely an application to Malchut, to Tiferet, and Bina are all called Olam in different ways. It's very deep, beautiful. Now maybe I'll tell you that now, that the second meaning is time. So you have space and time. Olam is space, is the world. Olam is also Le'olam Ba'ed, is time. And as Andy said, infinite time, or what goes towards infinite time. So space-time, which is a concept that was given out into the world for the first time in 1927 by a great Jewish physicist who was a teacher of Einstein, Minkowski. From now on, we speak only of space-time, he said, no more one or the other. There's no such thing as the two separate. Energy and matter, space and time, So space-time is olam. It's such a beautiful thing because it's so advanced that there is such a thing that the word itself contains both. And then the fact that there's infinite time leads us to hiddenness, which is hidden from our consciousness, that we can't conceive of it. So there is this thing that I just mentioned. I'm not sure if I'm ready to say it, but I'll pay if I know that enough. But it came to me very strongly last week that olam is one of the code words for Malchut. But to explain, I can say it, but I don't know if I can explain it in this forum. Olam is one of the code words for Tiferet or Zeir Anpin. He's also called Olam. And Olam, Melech HaOlam, King of the world, is also a kinui, a code word for Bina. And it could be that one of them is space, one of them is time, and one of them is infiniteness. Malchut is space, Zeir Anpin is time, is history, and Bina is infinite, is Olam Haba. So it really actually is an actual one-to-one relationship of the three meanings of the word Olam with three levels within the Sphirot. Don't worry if that was too. It's just correspondences. Correspondences are valuable. They give us a map.
Why is hidden and infinite one meaning?
I put them together because they because of infinite time being a mind boggler. Eternity is a where's the transition from time to eternity? The Ramchal speaks about it. Like, where does time end and eternity begin? Well, what is eternity? So I look at time as a bubble within eternity. Time as we experience it. And that as the Messianic Age unfolds and we come onto the higher levels that existed before creation, as we came down to time as we know it and space as we know it, we're going to start the return trip. The return trip, we're going to go back into infinite time. So this is I have sources for this, that time was much, much longer, much, much, much more expanded. And then it's constricted into what we would call human time, because it's only our sense of time that we know. And that history at this point in time is according to that. I'm getting mixed up in my words, but it's really just time as we know it only started recently and will end shortly, and before and after is what I call, based on what I understand, infinite time, or at least higher magnitudes or higher levels.
So are you saying that the original time, underwent a process of Simpson, like everything else, to leave us with what we know as time?
Yeah, I call it the fall and rise of space-time consciousness. The fall of space, the fall and the breakdown into lower space, into lower time, into lower consciousness, the fall and the rise, right? That we're just about poised before the return trip of the rise of space. The rise of space, which is explained that all of the land of Israel will be the whole earth will become the level of the Eretz Israel, and Eretz Israel will become the level of Yerushalayim, and then the whole earth will become the level of Yerushalayim, and Yerushalayim will become the level of the Har HaBayit, and eventually the Holy of Holies, and then the words that we use after that are Yetzirah, Bria, Atzilut, right? That space as we know it is a covering, and that when the shells fall off, the higher level of physical reality will be revealed in the higher levels. So the rise of space is that everything becomes more sanctified. Kadosh Ya'amer, everything will become holy in Yerushalayim. There's a verse in Isaiah. So, but it's not just Yerushalayim as we know it. Yes, we do. It's not that we want to take over the whole world. It's that Hashem's plan is that all of physical reality will become elevated, and the code words are Yerushalayim, Beit HaMikdash, Holy of Holies. Time will be elevated into the Gra and the Leshem put forth that we are in mundane time, profane time now. And in the Messianic Age, where every day will be a holiday. There'll still be Shabbos every week, one day Yom Kippur every year, and one day Yom Purim. And then in the beginning of the 7th millennium, every day will be Shabbos, but one day of the year will be Yom Kippur, and one day of the year will be Purim. In the 8th millennium, will be all reality will be Yom Kippur time, Yom Kippur reality, and one day of the year Purim. The 9th millennium, everything will be in the level of Purim. It's a symbolic way of thinking of the rise of time, out of time as we know it, into higher and higher, whatever, levels of experience, of consciousness of time. And then consciousness itself. All humanity becomes Israel. All Israel become Kohanim. So, but go back into the thing, we want to go progress a little bit. I mean, everything. I think that this is a page. This page and a half is very useful as a basis upon which to learn the basic ideas of Sod, of Kabbalah, and then to go back through it the second time and learn the deeper levels behind it, and the third time and the fourth time, and because that's what this book is. It's not a one-timer. He did an amazing thing. He sat there with his people who he knew very well, students and mostly psychologists, in his home, and he came in with what to say, and they drove him crazy with questions, and he answered. He was a wellspring, and he had everything taped. He taped everything, and then he had everything transcripted, and that's why I could put this book together. But it's him.
We don't have to send you crazy with questions.
Oh no, you wouldn't do that.
And the highest level of consciousness does time exist?
Well, so with the limitation of words, we'll move into eternity. But again, that's a word. It's a wonderful word. In Hebrew, it's netzach. Netzach netzachim. Eternity of eternities. Ol me olamim. Let's say that every level we get to will be a real world that we can experience and know ourselves and know that world and learn more about that world and learn more about God. And then Hashem will say, are you ready? And for the next level? And some will say, for sure. Open it up, God. And some will say, I'll stay here for a while.
So these worlds we're experiencing are in our body. We reach different levels of consciousness. Like, is there a limit as to?
So that's a machloket between Rambam and Ramban. It's a very interesting machloket. Will we have a body in Olam Haba? It's a wonderful. It's just, I love it. So how come you asked such a question?
Sorry.
But I don't want to take the whole time for it. But it's like this: the Rambam's understanding of Olam Haba, everybody comes against him and says, what you are calling Olam Haba, Rambam, is really Olam HaNeshamot, is the soul world. The Olam Haba is that which comes after Olam Hazeh, which is after the seventh millennium. The beginning of the seventh millennium is called Olam Haba, and onwards. And so it goes like this, that the resurrection, or the process, or the series of resurrections that will take place is when the souls come down from the soul world and reincarnate in their old bodies and resurrect, not reincarnate, resurrect in the bodies. And there's a midrash that says that the bodies will rise up with all the infirmities that they had, so that nobody should ever say that you did hocus pocus here. Everybody will rise up as they were when they passed away and then be healed. They'll rise up in bodies that are really what we would call bodies of light. Safiri, spirit in English, but spherotic bodies, angelic bodies. And so the Rambam says that those resurrected bodies will be temporary, like 100, 200, 300 years at most. And then we will leave those bodies and go back into Olam Haba that we were in, what we call in the English the afterlife. We'll go back into Olam Haba, which he says is Olam Haba, which is afterlife, and it's the same thing, it's the same place. It's not physical. And Ramban and a whole bunch, all of them, everybody, says, not exactly Rambam, it's that the bodies of the resurrection will be so important on the principle that Hashem never takes away what is due to somebody or to something. Since the body was instrumental in allowing the soul to be able to do what it did in this world, the body will have an eternal reward. And therefore it'll be eternal. The resurrected body will be eternal. So that's the machloket, is Rambam says after a while, no more body. And Ramban says with the Ravad and the Beit Yosef and the Bartanora and the Ramchal, that the resurrected body will be eternal. Now, the Ramban himself, in a 90-page treatise called Torat HaAdam, which is in the Kitvei Ramban, which starts off with halachot about death, dying, halachot of tearing, of burial, of mourning, and then goes on into the higher issues. At the very end, he brings in this thing from the Rambam, Rabbi Moshe, and says the truth, and he goes through this whole thing. In the very, very end, the last page, he said the truth is that Rabbi Moshe is really just using words differently than we are, but it's the same. We all basically all agree. What we call the resurrected body, which will be a spirit body, the Rambam is saying that there's no more body. Because if we would look at it from our point of view, the body we have. But it's really a body only, it's a body relative to the soul. And it will always be for eternity. But from our point of view, it's not in our body anymore. So that's the machloket, and that's the resolution. And that's a wonderful thing to look into and to read the sources. But that's how I...
What was that previous one?
The Torat HaAdam. It's a 2-volume set edited by Chavel in Hebrew. Okay, so the answer was that the body of the resurrection will be an amazing body. The Ramchal That's such a beautiful thing in the Derech Hashem. I'm not sure where there is one. And I have it in here. I'm not sure. He does a beautiful thing, but whatever. Maybe it's there. Just to check. No. Yeah. There's a tiny. Okay, it's the Ramchal and Derech Hashem. Behind you, maybe.
The 7th or the 8th?
7th is Shabbat.
Right.
8th is Yom Kippur, and 9th is every day is Purim. It's a symbolic language, but I bring it in the spiritual technology. Okay, so there's a nice Ramchal. It's in terms of the number that Rabbi Kaplan uses. It's 1:3:3, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, back to the page. Who doesn't have a page? Are the higher universe simply above ours? The question was based on the different diagrams that I have here for how to picture the higher worlds. Are they just above ours, and that every floor is every ceiling is the floor of the universe above it, like a building? Or do the higher universes somehow enter into and become the inner filament? Even this lower world, that the inner panemi, the inner level of this world is Ein Sof, but it's covered over, and that also the Ein Sof is the final outside, and that and that the context within which this world is greater and greater worlds. So they are really bigger than ours, and they are the context within which our little world exists, and also they send forth down into our world their essence. So they're both panemi, and they're also around. We're surrounded by and permeated by, and it's all hidden. We can't see it, and therefore the Ari says our job, this is a beautiful thing, that our job is to strengthen the inner light within us and to become more aware of the outer light. The inner light will then penetrate the walls of our being from the inside. The outer light will penetrate the walls of our being from the outside, and the walls of our being will become completely light. So, because light and energy in ancient Jewish teachings are really just exactly like in physics. They're in a continuum, light and energy and matter, right? And that matter really is just frozen energy. And if you heat it up a little bit, if you spiritualize it, it becomes, you vibrate physical matter at a higher frequency. It is really just spirit. It's energy. It's light. Describe building a house from desire to conception to actual building in terms of the unfolding of the letters of the Yud Kei Vav Kei and the Olamot. That's page 22 in the inner space. It's very nice. You can see it. Name of Olam that interfaces between Ein Sof and finite creation. That's on page 23. It's called Adam Kadmon. We discussed it a little bit. Why the word Adam could come in at such a high level, the different reasons that Rabbi Kaplan gives from the sources of that there's no Adam up there. There's no Adam. But because the thought of Adam, interestingly enough, is so central to the whole purpose of creation, and that we are distinct from all the galaxies and all the spiritual universes and all the angelic and everything else, we're unique and distinct, and there's a reason why even from the highest level up, the thought of Adam could be there, even though the reality of Adam could not come about until much later. This is in the Chazal that says that man was created on the sixth day of creation, and if he does well, he says the whole world was created for you. You're the guest, and the party was made with all the tables and all the food, and the entire thing was so that you could be welcomed in. Everything had to come before you, but it was for you. And if man does not do well, yitush kadamcha. What's a yitush?
Mosquito.
Mosquito came before you. You're nothing. So, but the higher level of it is that the whole world was created from the top all the way down for us. Which after Copernicus and Galileo, how can anybody say that? It's a huge world. This is a speck and a speck and a speck and a speck and this is nothing. No. So Rabbi Kaplan has a very nice piece on it in his essay, A World of Love, which is in his book, If You Were God, the pamphlet. And the Malbim, also in Tehillim 8, where it says, Mipi yonkim va'olalim yasada ta'oz. There's a verse in Psalm 8. You establish the world on the mouths of babes. On the one hand, ma'enos ki tiskein, and what is man that you should even think of him, that you should consider him? And yet, mipi yonkim va'olalim, you establish the world because of a baby. And so Rabbi Kaplan says there that size is of no importance with Hashem. It's like saying that a steel factory is great, but look at a diamond. Right? A steel factory is a lot of a physical, yeah, but a diamond or a molecule is where Hashem is more obvious, and not in the macro, in the micro. And he says the idea of human consciousness, even that of a baby, the brain of a baby, is because consciousness, which is knowledge, is nowhere in the entire, all the galaxies, according to one way of looking at it. Nothing like the brain of a human being, like the body, the physical matter that we are made from is so refined. So anyway, he goes into this whole thing, that it's not so far out to say that the whole universe could be for the purpose of man. And so I'm using that now here, besides what he says in Inner Space, on page 23, of the world that interfaces between Ein Sof and the finite creation, which is called Adam Kadmon. What does Ein, nothingness or no thingness, mean when speaking of higher worlds and Hashem? And there's a one down on page 50. If you can go down, it's everything, the numbers develop, so you can see page 50. The second entry for page 50 is Hashem the ultimate Ein or the ultimate Yesh on page 50. So Ein, the idea of what does Ein mean when you speak of God? Is God nothingness? He's only nothingness in the sense that he doesn't fit into any categories that we have. So Judaism is very careful to say that we're talking about Sfirot, Hashem's interaction with the world. But Hashem himself is above and beyond anything we can speak about. He is called Ein, no thingness, not nothingness, but no thingness. He is beyond thing. And so therefore, on page 50, when he talks about that we do speak about Hashem in terms of Ein, and it is true because he's beyond category, but he really is the ultimate Yesh. He is the existence, the is of the world. He is being itself. The whole basis of everything is being. So that's just a little connection between that, page 20, between page 23 and page 50. The difference between Yeshaya, Isaiah, and Yecheskel, Ezekiel's visions, on pages 28 to 30. How does Hashem run or govern or guide historical events and still give free will? Two analogies. So Do you have yours? So take. Okay, anyway, you have, obviously, we're not doing it until I figure that it's time to dive in, but I'm giving you, just sharing with you, and I'm open to any questions you want to ask. But this is an overview of the book, that we get the basics down before we go too deep, and then sometimes I want to go deeper on the spot, with your permission. So the two, on page 35, the two analogies that Rabbi Kaplan uses, where Hashem runs the world, and yet that there's free will. Hashgacha pratit, divine providence. We say Hashem that is the king of the universe. He's the king who hides in his universe. Adon Olam, he's the eternal hidden king of the world. Melech HaOlam, he's the hidden king, or the king who hides in his universe. His providence is his hidden providence because it's here, but it's not, but it's only, you can only intuit it. You can intuit, you can see synchronicities, serendipities. But if somebody has the word serendipity, but they don't have hashgacha behind it, that somebody is making these happen, these things, that there's an order to creation, and that there's an order to events. Yes, there's free will, but there's somebody making it happen. His providence is constantly at work, guiding the world toward its goal. So he says here, God also guides the destiny of each individual to fulfill his purpose, to fulfill God's purpose. Man might have free will, but God interacts with him to bring about his goal, with a capital H, his goal. He thus might place an individual in a certain predicament, cause him to meet a propitious friend, or otherwise give him opportunities to act in a way that helps lead the world toward God's ultimate goal. Three positive things that he said that God might set up, that you might be able to do something, because the setup is providing you the opportunity to do something beyond yourself. The ultimate goal of the historic process is the perfection of society as a vehicle for God's goodness. The goal is what we call the Messianic Age, and is the focus of the entire historical process. It is one of the basic beliefs of Judaism and gives us complete optimism in the ultimate future of mankind. In our analogy of the computer, we mentioned that the programmer is sitting at the console in Atzilut, receiving feedback from Asiya. It is only the program, however, which reacts to the information being sent back. We know that God himself, his will, and his master plan are not affected by man's actions. It's a verse in Job. This might sound like man's actions are of little consequence. The opposite, however, is the case. God's overall plan is to bring mankind to an ultimate perfection. Nothing can prevent this. It is, however, in man's hands to decide how he will reach the goal. So history is this incredible interaction between God's will and man's free will. You can see this really strongly in the story of Yosef. The Chazal say that Yaakov and Yosef had to go down to Egypt. Yaakov had to go down to Egypt. The question was how. It happened that Hashem brought it about through the inbuilt qualities within the brothers and their inability to relate to Yosef because of his dreams. And so it became hatred and jealousy, and that they sold Yosef, and Yosef went down to Egypt, and Yaakov was brought down to Egypt in that way. Now, the plan has to happen. How it unfolds, right, is important. So the second thing he says here is, in a way, the situation is very much analogous to the game of a master chess player. And he brings this in 4 places throughout the book. He's very much into chess. You can look it up in the index. Although his opponent has complete free will, the master knows how to counter each move and thus bring the game to any conclusion he desires. I don't play chess, but I get the idea. It's like the master can maneuver your pieces anywhere on the board because he knows it so well. That makes sense? Using this analogy, we can say that God is the ultimate master, and his game involves all mankind. The stakes are the ultimate triumph of good itself. So that's the end of chapter 3. And in chapter 5, he says, for instance, Keter represents the very concept of free will that God created in order to bring his creation to the desired goal. When he then created Chokhmah, Bina, and Da'at, he established laws that in effect would limit or conceal his free will. It is only since these Sfirot were brought into existence that he bound himself, as it were, to follow the rules. He doesn't have to, but he chooses to follow the rules that he created to run the world. But he is in Keter, he's above Chokhmah, Bina, and Da'at. He's above the rules. A good analogy is a chess game, where the player would move his pawn across the entire board in one move. Nothing prevents him from doing so except prior commitment to play according to the rules of the game. Similarly, God made a contract with creation that he will follow the rules and laws laid down in Chokhmah and in Bina. Because of this commitment, things can seem to be going in a predetermined way, which is antithetical to the total indeterminacy of Keter. Nevertheless, when everything is running according to plan and the level of Keter is hidden, it is still the motive force active behind the scenes to bring about God's will in creation. Whether you got that all, but the chess analogy and the ability to speak about Hashem's will and his interaction with creation is one of the main motifs of this whole book. The whole purpose of Kabbalah is not just to remember how many levels of worlds and how many levels of souls. It's how we become active participants in Hashem's game. So the reason we learn the basics is to have a language with which to speak about these very powerful ideas. Hi, Jonathan. Who doesn't have? You don't have. It's a good thing. That was my last one. Okay. Okay. Here we go. Names of the Sfirot, page 37. All right, are we on? Names of the Sfirot in order from top to bottom. Third grade. We're in third grade now. We've gone through the kindergarten, first grade, and second grade. Falling asleep? You're okay?
Yeah.
Aye. Okay, so perhaps somebody could go through the Sfirot and point to the part of your body that corresponds to the Sphira as you say it. And we could all point to that part of our bodies. Would you lead us? Would you lead us? Yeah.
Keter.
Keter.
Above that. Chachma. Bina. Das. Chesed. Gevura. Tiferet. Netzach. Hod. Yisod. Malchus.
Malchut could be a number of things. It
Yes.
could be the four we're standing on. It could be a number of things, but it's definitely the end product of everything else. So there is obviously a meditation here, an energy meditation of just being aware of the movement of energy from the top of our crown, of our cranium, all the way down and then back up again. So, and it's just using your mind to concentrate on the various different parts of your body. And if you do it fast, you can do it fast. If you do it slow, you can feel the thing either, for instance, with your hand to your head, or without your hand and just feel the right side. Now, also within the face, the eyes are chokhmah, the ears are bina, the mouth is tiferet, and the nose is tiferet, and the mouth is malchut. So you have, in a sense, a compact system here, right? Even And then it gets more specific that the lips are Netzach and Hod, the tongue is Yesod, and the total thing of the mouth is Malchut. So you have, wherever you go, you see a physical representation, a physical embodiment of a spiritual idea. One of the things that the Baal Shem Tov, and all the way back through the Ari, and all the back through the Zohar, and all the way back to Avraham Avinu and Sarah, and all the way back to Adam Arishon, is the interpenetration of the spiritual and the physical, and that there's no such thing as just physical. That when the Torah speaks and uses physical words like a cloud, anan, or a fire, esh, or describes a korban with the flesh of the animal, the basar, and the wood that used to burn it is atzeh olah, the olah offering, the elevation offering, the burnt offering, the wood for the burnt offering, whether it's in the story of the Akedah with Yitzhak or it's later in Vayikra, the words used are physical. That's how we approach the Torah. But on the inner levels, the Zohar is revealing to us that these words don't take it for granted that basar is flesh, and that etz is a tree, and that right, and that we're physicalizing things. Is that the Zohar opens up the Torah and says, let the Torah reveal the higher dimension of its own words to you. Don't pull it down into physicality just because you take words for granted that this is a tree and that's a that, right? The Torah speaks on every level of reality at the same time. You bring it down and think that it's just talking about a physical thing, but when you want to go inside, as we said last week, we don't want to be a bull in a china shop. You're very delicate. When you go inside, you do heart surgery. You're going inside in the Torah. You're asking to be allowed to go in to an inner level of existence that's always been there, and that the tzaddikim have traveled and have well-worn paths that they've traveled, and there are caves that they're there with wisdom and candles to light your way. But you have to start traveling that inner pathway, and then you're led more and more into these ideas, how ideas work. So that the ideas take years to internalize and integrate, but they can come to you in a flash. And all of a sudden you can understand something, and you get an insight into how Hashem runs the world. These are precious. And then if you get another insight 10 years later and say, oh my goodness, I was waiting for this. It's exactly what I needed to fulfill the 10-year ago one that I got 10 years ago. That's how spiritual wisdom works. It's not up to us when we get it, but when we do get it, register it, acknowledge that you've just gotten something important. You can say also, I need more. I don't understand completely. But you're having an inner conversation with an invisible dimension that's giving you wisdom. I can't explain it any better. You're asking, you're appreciating, as heaven does not like only askers. Heaven likes appreciators. Thank you so much for that. I don't know, there's so much more I need to know, but thank you so much for what I do know. Then you become somebody that they like to give to because they see that you have the acknowledgement. That's what's called Zocher Chasdei Avot. Hashem remembers and keeps in mind the chesed of the Avot because they were good investments. The more he gave to them, the more they used it to bring his name into the world. So Hashem wants to invest in us. Okay, page 37, we just did correspondences in the physical body of man. Compare with conceptual correspondences on page 22 above and page 45 below. That's just giving you a map of the book, the correspondences of the Sefirot physically and also conceptually. With the Yud Ke Vav Ke, the different levels of the worlds, the different levels of the souls, the different levels of the Sefirot, until you begin to see how it all fits together. Which is a big question. How do the teaching of the 5 levels of the soul, the 5 levels of the worlds, and the 5 levels of the and the 10 levels of the Sefirot, how do they all fit together? So I one of the things I brought in that I did not give you a copy of is this. I can certainly bring it in. It's a correspondence chart, Sulam HaHakbalot, ladder of correspondences. And take care, Tzvi. And so it has here Hashem's name, Yod K Vav K, and above is Kutzo Shel Yod, the apex. And then there's ways to spell Hashem's name out. So corresponding to this level, the apex, which is above, which is going to be Keter, and it's going to be Yechida, all these high levels, is the Yud K Vav K itself relative to the 4 ways that we have to spell out the Yud K Vav K. And here it's going to be Adam Kad. Here's the 5 levels of keeping a mitzvah. There's the asiyah, the doing. Here's the speech, the feeling aspect of a mitzvah. Here's the kavanah, the intention, the specific focused intention that I have for this specific mitzvah. This is what's called koach hamachshava, which is the library of knowledge that I have of the mitzvot in general, that I'm getting this specific focus from. And then the highest level is called ru'uta deliba, the will of the heart. So the system of mitzvot has 5 levels. Rabbi Nachman says, we said it last week at the end of the class, if you kick a ball, you can kick it so far. If you throw it, you can throw it further. Wherever he might not have been aware of American football or whatever, but you can throw it further. You can throw your voice further than you can throw a ball. You can smell further than you can throw your voice. You can smell from a distance. You can hear further than you can smell. You can hear thunder. You can see further than you can hear. So we're going up. And you can think further than you can see. And when you do a mitzvah, and you have the action that you're doing, and you have the speech with which you empower the bracha or whatever, right? And you have the kavana, and you have the machshava, and you have the ru'uta deliba, the will. And I like to say that the will is like plugging in the teka into the sheka. It's plugging in the lamp into the wall. You can do everything. It's very nice, but if you don't plug it in, the light won't go on. But if you do plug it in, whoa, it'll just be so special because you're doing it on a completely different level. What we want to do is to connect ourselves. And Re'uta Deliba also means that I'm doing it for the very reason that I was born. This little act that I'm doing, I'm lighting a Shabbos candle. I'm saying a bracha on an apple. That I'm bringing the highest level of my being to bear on this little action. You understand how beautiful that is? That every action can be filled with the highest level of why I exist. So I like to say that I'm going to buy a pair of shoes. When I buy a pair of shoes, I want to look cool. I want to walk down the street. I want people to look at me. But if I go up and say, well, what do I really want to buy a pair of shoes for? And what do I really want to buy? And really, Hashem, I just want to serve you. And then I bring that down into the way I buy my pair of shoes. And now, are these the shoes that I can walk in this world and do the service and work and fulfill my mission in this world? They still have to be comfortable, but it's not looks anymore. So in other words, I've filled my external action with a powerful inner connection to my being, to the reason that I exist, and that what I am as a Jew and as I am as so that is just one example of something that's here on this page. And then we have all the sphirot and all the levels of the soul. And how 10 interacts with 5 is very, very, we'll get to that. In other words, at one point, there's one sphira for Keter, is one sphira corresponding to Yechida, the highest level of the soul. And Chochma corresponds to Chaya, the next level of the soul down. And Bina corresponds to the next level of the soul down, Neshama. And all of a sudden, the next level of the soul, Ruach, has 6 sfirot. What happened? Right. And then the next level down has 1, Malchut has 1 sphira. And one Malchut is connected to the level of the soul called Nefesh. So everything is 1, a 1-to-1 except Ruach. which has 6 sfirot, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod. So this is like really nice stuff. I'm just bringing it to your attention for the moment. I'm not answering it, but that it's like that's a really nice teaching, and it's just not the time to share it yet. But it's I think we'll get to it. Okay, we're definitely getting after we do these pages. The meaning of the root sphera and svar and sipur on page 40. The double function of the sphirot as lights and as vessels for the divine. Extra, if there are 4 or 5 or more olamot, how many sphirot are there? So the Ari asks in 2 places, there are 10 sphirot in Atzilut. Are there also 10 sphirot in Bria, the next world down, and there are 10 sphirot in Yetzirah, and then 10 sphirot in Asiya? Would there be 40 sphirot? And the answer is no. There are only 10. And that Bria, Yetzirah, Asiya are garments on Atzilut, and they have the branches of the 10 sphirot, and therefore they're extensions of, but it doesn't ever mean that there's more than 10. And the reason for that is not really important right now, but it's just a knowledge point. There are only 10 sphirot, the Ari says. How are the sphirot divided vertically? Well, we already did that, one under the other. Because later on, I'm going to, what?
Sorry.
Yeah,
So
no, it's fine.
in each sphere, you can't, like, can you acknowledge other sphera? Or you're
Yeah,
just,
they're
like,
really
in
totally
that,
inter-inclusive with each other.
but they're just not separate. They're not in one of its, like, you're in one level, and in that level you can experience things, but that's not considered to be experiencing a different number of sphera.
Excellent question. As the way that the sphirot are inter-inclusive, and that each sphera has aspects of all the others. The Ari says about the right arm, that the cells in the right arm are all the various different types of cells, like say the 10 sphirot, but the dominant one is right arm, chesed. But everything is here. So he's saying to us, again, things that I will get into at other times is that the way I understand it is dominant and inferior. In other words, everything is there, but one thing comes to the fore. So, or the other way to say it is hitkalalut of hitkashrut. Hitkalalut means inter-inclusive. Hitkashrut, interconnected. The sphirot are inter-inclusive with each other, so that each one contains aspects of all the others, and that's why they can interact with each other. The Zohar says at one point that a man and a woman is a man, woman, and a woman is a woman, man. And therefore, it's the female and the man, and the male and the female that are reacting or interacting. And then the Zohar says, at the beginning of Zohar Bamidbar, then the Zohar says that not only male, female, but 10 sfirot each. And that we need, in order for two opposites to interact, they have to have their own opposites. So the male, female, female, male. So it's an energetic system. That's the best I can do right now, even though it sounds like double talk. I realize my limitations.
That's okay, but is it the same sense of like the male, female, female, male, that if I'm responding to you and it's the male part of me, it's actually a mirror of you? like that, because it's energetic. We're constantly exchanging energy. So if I'm exchanging an opposite side of my energy, then it's actually just tuning into what you're reflecting onto me and what I'm reflecting back onto you.
Yes, in a way, and then I would say also Adam and Eve, for instance, the names Adam and Eve in Hebrew, Adam b'Chava. Adam has the word dome in it, silence. Men like to be quiet, live in a cave, think. And women are, Chava is lechavod, is communication. So a man and a wife, very often the wife will say, why don't you at least say something to certain men? And, like, what's going on? So she's forcing him to come out with his female side. And he is, if he does it right, is able to nurture that aspect of her where she can be completely, totally happy with herself, which is dome, which is silence. I don't need external thing. Of course, you don't need to be married to do this, but part of the relationship is that we give each other something, and it's beautiful. So it's really actually encoded into the names Adam and Chava, silence and speech. There's an extra here called, in the 7 days of creation, the name Elohim appears 32 times. You have a chart here in your sets. On the third page of your set, you have a chart. Please open to your two. I colored mine. I was going to bring in Lord's, as I said. And really, you can only appreciate it when you see that with colors. I want you to color them in. It's page 3 of this set. This is a Xerox from Rabbi Kaplan's Sefer Yetzirah, translation and commentary of Sefer Yetzirah. So again, I'm reading now again the shaded part on my page. Just in the 7 days of creation, the name Elohim appears 32 times. So here I put it in terms of questions. How many times Vayomer Elohim, and what do they parallel? So you see here that number 4 on the left chart, right, on the left side, mine is colored green. Number 4 is God said. God saw. God saw the light, that it was good. Now, at the far end, in the column at the far end, it says double one. What is double one? That the Aleph Beit is 22 letters, and the 10 Sfirot are 10. So 22 letters plus 10 is what? 32. So the 32 names that Hashem's name appears in chapter 1 of Genesis are going to be divided into 22 and 10. 10 Sfirot and 22 letters. The 22 letters are going to be divided into 3 mothers, 7 doubles, we're called 7 kfulot. Beged Kafrat is Beit Gimel Dalet, Chaf Pei Reish, right? Kafrat, Chaf Pei Reish Taf are the letters that have a dagesh sometimes and don't have one sometimes. Kaf, Chaf, Be, Ve. Our Gimel we don't have, but the Temanim, Ge, R. De, Z. This is called a hard dalet and a soft dalet. The dalet at the end of Echad and Shema is Echad, like the TH of the. So they are the double letters because they have a double form. And then there's 12 elementals. So there's 3, 7, and 12. That makes 22. So you see here that there's 7 times that God saw in the 7 days of creation. There's 3 mothers in orange, in mine, excuse me, it doesn't help you to say orange if you don't see it. There's 3 mothers, which is number 8, number 16, and number 24. are the 3 times that it says God made. Vayas. The doubles again are 4, 12, 14, 18, 21, 25, and 32. So you can do that later, the colors. The 10 sfirot are the 10 statements of God said. So even though Bereshit doesn't say God said, it's still considered the first, what's called, of the Asara Ma'amarot, the first of the 10 utterances. So number 1 is Sphira 1. The next one is 3, which is God said, let there be light, is Sphira 2. You got the idea. Number 7 is God said, let there be a firmament, Sphira 3. Again, number 10, God said. Number 15, God said. And all the others, the God says, there's 7 of them, 10 of them. So what you have here is the whole system of Kabbalah is hinted at in the numbers.
Why isn't 31 a sphera? It also, as God said.
31
Is the Hebrew the same? Maybe it's a different way of saying.
well, I have it here in my own thing. Just a second. Good question. Where's mine?
All the other God says was, as it were, Hashem commanding the creation what to do, bringing things into existence. If you're looking at number 31, it's a different, something that's totally different going on.
Mm-hmm.
It's not bringing something into existence.
It's interesting. There's actually, it's not clear which is the here. How shall I say this? The way I have it in my book is number 1 is Bereshit bara Elohim. Number 2 is Vayomer Elohim Yehi Or. Okay, that's you have here. Number 3 is Vayomer Elohim Yehi Rakia. That would be a firmament. Next is Vayomer Elohim Yekav Lamayim. Let the waters be gathered. Number 10. Then Vayomer Elohim Tadshe Haaretz. Let the earth give forth vegetation. Is
13.
Yehi Me'orot, Vayomer Elohim Yehi Me'orot, let there be luminaries.
15.
Vayomer Elohim Yishritzu Amayim, let the waters swarm.
19.
Vayomer Elohim Totzeh Haaretz, Behema.
23.
23. Vayomer Elohim Naaseh Adam, God said, let there be man.
26.
And the 10th one I have is Vaybarach Elohim and Vaybarach Otam Elohim Vayomer Lehem Pru Urvu. So he has a different one. Yeah, he has that for 30. For 30. So what is 31? God said, behold, I have given you.
Maybe that's Hashem crossing over the spirit.
I won't say anything.
There's a second level below Malchut. Maybe that's it. There's another level.
And it could be a mistake in his book. I just have to, I should throw mine.
all the first 10, just to read what it says before, as you've got it here, as you have it, in a way are commandments.
Yes, no, your distinction is very good. I just want to check it out. So yeah, so I have here, okay. By Baruch Elohim, Otam Elohim, Vayinu Peru Vu Mozamri. I got up to the that's Pru Vu. Pru Vu by me is already number 10.
Yeah.
And it's his number 30. And that's Yom Hamishi. Vayomer Elohim Totzeh Haaretz Nefesh Chaya. Vayomer Elohim Totzeh Haaretz Nefesh Chaya. Why is so that's what I have is
It's 23.
I'm confusing myself. Verse number 26 is Vayomer Elohim Nase Adam B'Tzalmenu. Let's make man. Vayomer Lahem Elohim Pru Urvu, be fruitful. That's verse 28. Vayomer Elohim Hinei Natati Lachem. It is Vayomer Elohim. And it's verse 29. God said, behold, I have given to you. So I have to think about it. I'm not sure exactly who went wrong here, me or Rabbi Kaplan or my brain or whatever. The last verse is verse 31, is Vayar Elohim, the last verse of chapter 1, and God saw. Okay, so that's number 32 here. I'll do my homework. I will look into this. The reason I brought it to your attention is the Gra says on this that 32 is an approximation of pi. And he takes it very seriously that in order to that this is like this is the mathematics of the Torah is going into geometry here, so to speak, with these 32. And he wrote a book as a mathematician. He called it Ha'ayel HaMishulash, the threefold something. And he was into the mathematical systems of the Torah. Here you see on this page that Rabbi Kaplan says most of the Sefer Yetzirah will deal with 32 paths. You see something?
No, it was 10. I think it's 10 times pi we were talking.
Yeah, 3.14. Yeah. So it's 10 times pi, but it's something that 22 letters and 10 sfirot. I have to think about how to give it over and to just what I think it means. I wanted to bring you the chart to indicate how compact the Torah is about how it gives over information, and that hidden within its narrative are these different levels. But the whole of the Sefer Yetzirah is divided into talking about 10 sfirot. It has a whole chapter on the 3 mother letters, a whole chapter on the 7 double letters, and a whole chapter on the remaining 12 elemental letters. So it's really a real amazing, it just contains a lot here. And in terms of the picture of the Sfirot, Keter up here, Chochma and Bina here, Chesed and Gvura here, Tiferet here. You got it? Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchut. So there are 3 horizontal connecting lines between Chochmah and Bina, Chesed and Gevurah, and Netzach and Hod. That's the 3 mother letters. There's 7 verticals. There are 7 verticals in this arrangement where Chochmah connects to Chesed is 1, Chesed connects to Netzach is 2. On the left side is Bina connects to Gevurah is 1, and Gevurah connects to Hod, so you have 4. In the middle you have Keter to Tiferet is 1, that's 5. Tiferet to Yesod is 6, and Yesod to Malchut, 7 verticals. 3 horizontals, 7 verticals, and 12 diagonals. So again, you have 3, 7, and 12. And then finally, in the Beit HaMikdash, you have 12 breads, 7 branches of the menorah, and the 3 can be seen as the Aron HaKodesh with the Kruvim being 2, and the Spirit of Hashem coming in between them can be seen like that. This is actually done in a series of paintings that David Friedman in Tzfat did, his Sefer Yetzirah that he did 20 years ago, an amazing set where he basically encapsulated the entire Sefer Yetzirah in a series of paintings, including the colors and the shapes. He got down to triangles, squares, and circles. The triangles were yellow. The circles were the squares. This was a shin, was yellow. The triangle was a shin, like this, which is yellow, which is fire. The elements, the shapes, and the colors, the 3 primary colors. The mem, and the mem sofit is a square. So it was a square which was blue, which represented water. The circle, I guess the shin was red. The circle was yellow, representing air and representing yellow, circle, air. Water, blue, square. Triangle, red. The shin, the aleph was in a circle. The mem is the water, is the mem, is the square. The circle is the aleph because it fits into a circle perfectly. And the shin, ayin, aleph, mem, shin is the 3 mother letters. The 3 mother letters, the 3 basic colors, the 3 basic geometrical shapes. And just went on in this incredible series that he did that I have some of the prints of, if anybody wants to see them. So, I mean, I just wanted to just kind of tell you about that. I don't know where to take it, I admit. And then the rest of our class, I guess next week we'll continue this until we finish. I feel it's important, and any interaction between us on any of these questions, reading the pages, seeing if anything really hits you, marking those pages in your book. If you don't have it, I can give you Xerox copies of Inner Space, and making this a book that you can have reference to whenever you need it for whatever you need to know. That's what it is. So we're going to go on more with the Sfirot and some of the nice things that he goes into. That's it. Na 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 Okay, thank you.
Thank
I
you.
was just saying one more thing, that when I was, one of the last times I was with Shlomo, when he was visiting the Moshav, he was asking me what I was doing. He says I was working for an organization called Arachim at the time, that they did seminars, and I was involved with people doing Torah codes, and the codes and the hidden codes in the Torah. And he said, Sodot Torah. But what about Sodot HaChaim? What about the secrets of life? So he was saying, it has to lead us to a deeper appreciation of life itself. It's a beautiful connection between life and Torah. So let it be alive, let it be flowing. They should interact, impregnate each other. Deeper Torah, deeper life. The more we go into the Torah, the more we should know how deep our lives are. And just one more thing is that I said today, if we don't learn and teach our children and teach ourselves that when Yosef was in a dungeon and he felt like it was all over, what was he going to do in a dungeon? Moshe Rabbeinu, according to the Midrash, was also in a dungeon. David suffered as being an outcast, and they all went through something. Sarah didn't have a baby, but they made it. And so the message has to be, you too can make it. If we don't add that, then we're missing a very important part of the Torah. Moshe became Moshe because he went through what he went through, and he came out as Moshe. Yes, he had the potential, but the potential is, you have to. And when you do it, when you malta et orat levavchem, then umal Hashem, then Hashem will come with 99% to help us. But that you can do it is so important. You too can do it. We can do it. That's who we are. We're the ones who believe in Hashem, but not to the exclusion of human action. And then when human action is filled with divine presence, that's the ultimate maximum of what human action is about. But I'm really saying strongly that Shlomo was saying the secrets of life have to come as a deeper level of what the secrets of Torah lead us to. So hope we can do that together.
Can I tell a short story?
Yeah.
About when you say it's seemingly over, so I have a little mirpes off of my bedroom. It's a good story. You might want to hear it.
I love to say I'm actually going to make it quite this way.
Go for it.
That's right. So I hate to leave early.
I went to the nursery near the botanical gardens. I found this little tree, maybe 1.5 meters, 80 shekels, the most beautiful tree I've ever seen. Had these flowers on it, maybe 100 flowers on this tree, and I had to buy this tree. So it's been on my mirpesset for years. And every winter, the flowers and the leaves would die. I'd keep watering it, and come the springtime, it would blossom again. And this year, the tree didn't blossom. It was seemingly dead. But I continued to water it. And out of nowhere, from the bottom, from this dead tree, sprouted this new branch. After all hope was lost, and you thought that this was a dead tree, right? I took a picture of it, and so I wake up every morning, and this is kind of like my inspiration,
Awesome.
because it's like it's paralleling a lot of things that are happening in my life as you think that things are dead, right? A new branch sprouts.
Wow. It's got an energy.
Yes. I think there's a lesson there for all of us.
Amazing.
I just wanted to share that with you.
Oh my goodness. Oh, amazing. Wow. Thank you. That's just
Wow.
so.
Pretty crazy.
Amazing.
It's dead tree out of nowhere.
Amazing.
I also have planted a bunch of little starters, vegetables and whatnot, and I have my huge thing, and like many of them are full, and there were 2 rows that just never sprouted, and for 3 weeks everything's been flourishing, and now all of a sudden those 2 rows just started popping out. We all received the same water.